I'm the only one on here who got bad-ass kids.
We all go through
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you ain't got no bad-ass kids, you got one and you got lucky. You hear me? Anybody with 3 or more,
multiples,
you got one that you don't know what the hell you gonna do with.
Something shocking just hit the Harris family, and the entire hip-hop scene is shook. The same world that once celebrated their every move has now gone cold and quiet. What started as an ordinary day flipped into a nightmare when news broke that King Harris, the son of rap legend T.Y., was fighting for his life in the ICU.
You know I stand on business. Why you even letting somebody play with me like that? Why you letting somebody play with me like that?
I don't have no gang. I ain't in no gang. I got family. I got motherfuckers who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Well, don't f***ing play with me, man. Don't f***ing play with my motherfucking child, ever.
His face had lost all color, his body hooked up to tubes, and his parents stood frozen behind the glass, hearts in pieces. Fans who'd watched King live his flashy, wild life online couldn't believe this was real. Their favorite celeb kid now lying still, barely holding on.
Why? No, King changed for other reasons, and he ain't got good sense. You see what I'm saying?
Is that nigga not give us a question?
Everybody know King ain't got, you know what I'm saying? He ain't got all his marbles.
I want to say this. First and foremost, there's no shame, no embarrassment in getting packed out, getting beat up. As long as you fight, you're respected. Now, did King fight? We don't know. I'm going to tell you my personal opinion about T.I.'s son, King.
You already know that when you come to jail, everybody jealous of what you done had in your life. That's just part of the culture. Like, I wish I would have had.
But here's where things take a dark twist. This wasn't some random mishap or a jailhouse scuffle gone wrong. Nah, something much more sinister happened inside those prison walls. They say King had been trying to keep to himself that night, avoiding drama. He told folks he just needed a minute alone to think, maybe to reset his path. Minutes later, chaos erupted. Screams, guards running, alarms blaring, then silence. And when it stopped, King was found on the floor, motionless. Doctors worked fast, but his wounds told another story. They weren't random. They were targeted, intentional. And what's even wilder, the security cameras that always record everything, completely blacked out during the attack. It's like someone made sure there'd be no evidence left behind. T.I. and Tiny arrived in tears that same night, begging their son to wake up. Nurses whispered that things were critical, machines barely keeping him alive. Outside, a sea of fans lit candles and prayed, flooding social media with demands for justice. But underneath all that hope, fear was spreading fast. What if this whole thing was a setup? What if somebody actually wanted King out of the picture, for real? Not long after the attack, whispers started flying that nothing about it was random. Inside, sources from the prison began talking low, saying King had ticked off the wrong crowd. And not just fellow inmates. We're talking about people with real power, the kind you don't ever want to cross. Rumor had it King stumbled on something he wasn't supposed to know. Shady money deals, contraband moving under the radar, even guards getting their cut. If that's true, then King wasn't just another inmate. He was a liability. And in that world, liabilities get erased, quick. But here's the jaw-dropper. When the family demanded the footage from that night, the warden calmly said the cameras malfunctioned. Every last clip gone, clean. How convenient, right? Ty couldn't hold it together. The man who's always been tough, proud, and solid in front of the world was seen outside the ICU, tears running down his face, telling reporters, "I don't care about justice. I just want my boy to live." That line broke hearts, but it also lit up the internet like wildfire. People started questioning everything. Why would he say that unless he already knew this wasn't just a fight gone bad? Did T.I. know who did it? Was he trying to protect someone? Then came the biggest bombshell, a leaked voice recording from a nurse whispering, "This wasn't random. Someone wanted him gone." That single sentence flipped the whole story. Now it wasn't just about a wounded son, it was about a targeted hit. The whole thing turned into a story about betrayal, silence, and pure fear. Suddenly, everyone online was playing detective, connecting dots that weren't even visible yet. The world was holding its breath as doctors warned. The next 24 hours would decide everything. Each slow beep from the monitor felt like a ticking clock counting down to either hope or heartbreak. Tiny was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe, clutching T.I. as he stood frozen, whispering through the glass, "Hang on, son. Daddy's here." But here's where it gets real wild. While the family prayed for a miracle, whispers inside the prison started bubbling up, voices ready to spill what really went down that night. And just when everyone thought things couldn't get darker, they did. As the world tried to piece together the chaos, new sources came forward, and their words brought fresh chills. Inside that hospital, the tension was thick enough to choke on. King's condition kept swinging up and down, his heart racing one minute, crashing the next. Doctors murmured that swelling in his brain was worsening. Every hour felt like walking on glass. Tiny was breaking apart, her tears non-stop. And T.I.? He looked empty, like a man who'd already lost everything once before. The halls smelled like disinfectant, panic, and whispered prayers. Everyone waited, hands clasped, eyes locked on that one lifeless bed, just hoping King would finally open his eyes. But that night, fate threw another wild twist. By morning, those quiet whispers about a setup had exploded into full-blown accusations. People weren't buying the prison fight story anymore. They were calling it what it looked like, a planned hit. And then came the bombshell that sent the whole internet spinning. A leaked voice clip from a prison staff member claimed the guards were told to stand down just minutes before the chaos began. That one statement lit social media on fire. Folks started asking, was someone inside working with outsiders to make this happen? No one had proof, but the silence from officials said plenty. Fans started calling it the biggest betrayal behind bars, demanding answers while the system stayed quiet as a grave. Meanwhile, T.I. was trying to keep it together, but every camera, every headline was tearing him apart. Reporters followed his every move, and every tear became clickbait. At one breaking moment, he snapped and said, "If my son doesn't make it, the world's gonna burn." Nobody knew if that was heartbreak talking or a promise. Some swore he already knew who did it, and that revenge was coming. Then things got even darker. A few of T.Y.'s old rivals started posting cryptic messages online. One rapper even wrote, "When you play with fire, it reaches your family." That one line set the internet ablaze. Fans went digging through old beefs, linking names and spinning theories about who ordered the hit. But this time, it wasn't just gossip. It felt like the whole world had turned into a war zone of grief, rage, and suspicion. Atlanta's streets lit up with candles and chaos that night. Crowds flooded the city, holding posters of King and chanting, "Justice for King." The people weren't asking anymore. They were demanding it. This wasn't just about one young man fighting for his life in a hospital bed. It had become a full-on battle between the public and the system. Videos started blowing up online, Tiny collapsing in the hospital hallway, her voice breaking as she screamed, "They wanted to kill my baby!" That cry echoed through every corner of social media, and hearts broke everywhere. But then came the news nobody wanted to hear. Doctors told the family King's skull had taken massive trauma, likely from a padlock stuffed inside a sock. That wasn't a fight. That was an execution. The wounds told the story. They weren't from anger. They were from precision. Somebody meant to end him. And the wildest part? Guards were right there the whole time, but stood back until it was too late. The Harris family felt betrayed to their core. They believed even in prison there were rules, limits. But now, it seemed those rules had been erased. Just when the family started pushing for an official statement, boom, another twist hit that flipped everything upside down. Within days, Atlanta felt less like a city and more like a movie set. Crowds camped outside the hospital, cameras flashing, fans crying, and tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Reporters had every corner of Atlanta locked down, and social media, a straight-up war zone of theories. Some were yelling corruption, others whispered karma, and a few believed this was revenge, payback for something written in blood years ago. But hold up. Here's where it gets wild. Just when everyone thought the story couldn't possibly get darker, an anonymous audio dropped online. The voice in that clip was trembling, scared, and it said, "We were told to make it look like a fight, but the target was King." Man, those words spread like wildfire. No one could prove if the audio was legit, but it was enough to rip open wounds the Harris family was desperate to close. After that leak, the whole world stopped trusting silence. Journalists started digging through T.I.'s past, the old beefs, broken deals, and rivalries that had gone cold. Some said the attack was a warning, a message to remind T.I. that even fame can't protect you forever. Others believed it had nothing to do with music at all, that King had stumbled on something inside those prison walls. Maybe corruption, maybe secrets he wasn't meant to see. The scary part? Too many insiders said the same thing, that the hit was too smooth, too quiet, too perfectly timed to be random. It felt planned, cold, professional. Destiny had once again flipped the script, trapping the Harris family in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. Inside the hospital, the energy was heavy. King's vitals kept swinging like a pendulum. One moment stable, the next dropping dangerously low. Nurses rushed in and out, pale and panicked, whispering orders under their breath. T.I. hadn't left his son's bedside in days. His beard thick, his eyes bloodshot, his spirit broken. The man the world once knew as strong and untouchable now looked completely defeated. Tiny sat for hours, hands clasped tight around King's, whispering through tears, "You're strong, baby. You'll come back." But that night, something chilling happened. The monitor flatlined for a few seconds. King stopped breathing. Doctors stormed in, shouting orders, fighting for his life like it was the last round in the ring. For a second, everyone thought the nightmare was finished. Then the monitor screamed back to life, and hope exploded across the room. He'd come back, barely hanging on, and the news hit the streets like a shotgun blast. Crowds folded into each other, strangers hugging and bawling, calling his name until their voices cracked. It felt like the whole city lit one giant prayer candle for King. But the line between fact and gossip started to blur fast. Every hour brought a fresh theory. One crew swore a set of guards had been paid, another blamed a rival rapper's clique for plotting the hit. Some even whispered this was an industry chess move, a power play meant to scare the rest of the game. Nobody could pick a side, and one thing was obvious. This wasn't just about a kid in a hospital bed anymore. This was about a whole system cracking open in front of millions of people. That night, T.I. snapped under the pressure and cameras caught him storming out, shaking with fury, lashing at reporters. "If you don't protect my family, I'll burn this whole system down," he roared. And that clip spread across feeds like wildfire within minutes. Some heard a grieving father, others heard a man who'd seen too much. Either way, it turned the heat way up. The internet went ballistic, asking the questions nobody dared to ask before. Why did the cameras fail? Why did the guards freeze? Why was every witness too terrified to talk? Each unanswered question pushed the truth farther into shadow, and every silence made the whole story feel colder and darker. As night slid on, the Harris family huddled in the waiting room, silent, shattered, and scared to move. Tiny whispered prayers into King's hand, while T.I. stared at the floor and through the hospital glass. Every candlelight outside reflected in his hollow eyes. The red emergency lights outside mixed with the flicker of thousands of candles, turning the scene into something both holy and haunting. People waited for justice, for a sign, for a miracle. Deep down, everyone felt something massive was coming, something that would flip the whole narrative on its head. And as the final night closed in, the hospital turned into a fortress with guards posted at every door. Ready or not, the world was bracing for the next blow. Outside, the crowd was louder than ever, fans chanting, cameras flashing like lightning. But inside those hospital walls, silence ruled. The air felt thick, almost sacred. The lights were dim, the tension heavier than grief itself. The doctors' faces told the story before their mouths did. The Harris family had no tears left. Days had blurred together. No food, no sleep, just waiting for the words no parent should ever have to hear. Doctors quietly warned that if King didn't show improvement soon, they might have to consider removing life support. That sentence hit T. I like a dagger to the chest. He exploded, shouting, "Ain't nobody deciding my son's fate but God." His voice echoed through the halls, trembling with rage and heartbreak. "You don't get to choose when my son's story ends." Outside, Atlanta was frozen in prayer. The crowd had doubled overnight, a massive sea of candles and faces, holding signs that read, "Justice for King," and "The system failed him." Even strangers who had never met the family were crying, their voices mixing with gospel songs and sirens. It was like the whole city was mourning together. But then, boom, another digital bomb dropped. Out of nowhere, a cryptic Instagram account appeared and posted a chilling message. "The sins of the father fall on the son." This was never about King. It was about T. Within minutes, the post vanished, but the screenshots went viral instantly. Fans went wild, convinced now that this wasn't about a random attack at all. This was personal. Some said King was paying the price for his father's past. Destiny had flipped the script again, and it felt like the universe was rewriting the cost of fame in real time. That night, heartbreak turned the hospital into a stage no one wanted to watch. Tiny collapsed in the hallway after hearing King's brain activity was fading fast. T.I. dropped beside her, gripping her hand, whispering desperate prayers. Even the nurses broke down, seeing raw pain strip away all that fame and fortune. One nurse whispered through tears, "They're just parents, like anyone else." And then, the wildest thing happened. Out of nowhere, the monitor twitched. A tiny pulse, a flicker of breath. Life. The room froze. The doctor yelled for silence as King's heartbeat grew stronger, then weaker, then steady again for a few seconds before fading once more. But that single flicker was enough to make everyone believe the fight wasn't over yet. Outside, the crowd erupted with hope, cheering through their tears. King was still fighting. King Harris shows signs of life. The words that sent Atlanta into chaos. Fans screamed, cried, and dropped to their knees right there in the streets. After days of heartbreak, it felt like the entire city finally exhaled at once. But even with that flicker of hope, the truth behind what happened to King was still buried deep, hidden beneath silence, lies, and fear. The prison stayed quiet. No reports, no footage, no suspects, just emptiness. The Harris family's lawyer came forward calling it the biggest cover-up in state history. And as the cold night settled over the city, T.I. broke his silence with one post that hit harder than any press statement. "They tried to break me through my blood, but we don't fall that easy." That one line lit up the internet, becoming a rallying cry for millions who'd watched every second of this tragedy unfold. But here's where things get wild. The story didn't stop there. Even with King fighting to stay alive, the whispers didn't fade. They multiplied. People online said the ones behind this were untouchable, too powerful to name, too dangerous to expose. Some claimed the evidence was buried in sealed files that would never see daylight. Others swore T.I. already knew who ordered the hit. He was just waiting for the perfect moment to speak.